Maybe.
I feel
Like, here's a good question: will fundamentals ever matter again?
Yes.
What?
Again, it will.
fundamentals
It's
of
not right
porn?
now.
I mean, here's the thing, though.
Anything. Of
I don't know.
anything. Because right now, the fundamental of what's driving like GME, we might get into it, but it's literally because somebody's shorting it.
Right.
That's the fundamental of why it's going up.
Well, that's the fundamental side of it, but it's also a sentiment increase as well, more so than anything, because like that's what sparked it. But then the sentiment is what got everybody like fired up, and just like screw it. And now everyone's so
I'm
mad.
Peter Paul, and this is
know.
Magic in the Attic podcast. We got to start this thing, boys. Wow, what a week! I'm looking at Piano Man. I'm looking at Midnight PM, and we are going to be counting down to start off here our top 5 Super Bowls. That's right. So we're getting to it. I don't have a top 5 because, as I've expressed here before, I'm not really a sports person. But I think these guys have a top 5, and I'm just going to say, though, right off the bat, my least favorite Super Bowl was the one, the Super Bowl Sunday where, what was the one where Philip Seymour Hoffman died? I don't know. It was a Super Bowl weekend when he died. I remember. I thought it was sad. Anyway,
The one where the China virus went crazy. Oh wait, can we say that? I don't know. Joe Biden said we couldn't.
No,
China
but
virus.
you're allowed to call it like the South African strain. Like,
And by the way, if you haven't already, follow us on Twitter at Magic in the Attic, and send us email at magicintheattic@gmail.com. Follow us all on the Twitters, at Piano Man for Piano Man, at Midnight Mark Podboy for Midnight Mark, at Very Ignorant Man for myself. JBM is at Doug_funny, I believe.
And you can
And,
tune in and actually probably watch this episode on YouTube. So what's up, YouTubers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're hedging our bets, saying probably there.
But please send us a question to magicintheatticpodcast@gmail.com. We would appreciate it. Let's roll.
We need your questions. So, top 5 Super Bowls. JBM said he did some extensive preparation for this, and I believe him, so let's hear it.
I don't know how extensive it was. Number 5, Broncos.
As extensive as your research into Dogecoin.
Yes. Number 5, Broncos Seahawks, because it was awesome. And Peyton Manning, first play of the game, snap goes over his head, and then they got trounced. And it was an amazing moment as a fan of all things not Peyton Manning. I think the final score was 43-8. It was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Number 4, Colts versus Saints. Peyton Manning throws an interception. Pick 6 to lose the game. It was also wonderful. All right. Now, the 3 games that were actually like exciting finishes. Patriots Seahawks, the first ever double-digit come-from-behind victory in a Super Bowl. Very, very exciting. One of the most boneheaded playing calls of all time by Pete Carroll to not give the ball to Skittles at the 1-yard line. And then you had Malcolm Butler with the interception. Just wild. Brady's 4th, I think it was. 4th? Yeah, 4th. And then number 2, the Giants-Patriots Super Bowl, even though the team I wanted to win did not win. The sack, almost sack on Eli Manning, the release, the helmet catch from David Tyree, all the craziness. The undefeated season was over. It was absolutely nuts. And also, Peyton Manning's brother won a Super Bowl, and that was pretty cool because then he also won another one. Number 1 was the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl. I know everyone says, oh, the game wasn't that great because it was never close till late. But, dude, that was the craziest comeback I've ever seen, especially in a playoff game, let alone a Super Bowl. The way it went down 24 25? 25, right? No, 28-3, right? Yeah. It was just absurd. And I remember Midnight Mark was there. We had I had a big Super Bowl party that day. There was like 40 people here. Probably 30 of them at least left, like mid-third quarter. And I remember telling everybody, hey man, number 12 still playing quarterback. And then everything happened, and it was just insane. First overtime in Super Bowl history, biggest comeback by a mile in Super Bowl history, and good for Brady's 5th ring. So, exciting times. But that's what I got, boys.
Word. What about Midnight Mark?
I don't think I took the Peyton Manning hating as heavy, although that Denver-Seattle game was good for anybody who thought it would be hilarious for Peyton Manning. I worn my I printed off a picture of Richard Sherman as the Terminator, and like
Terminator.
Yeah, I think it was like at halftime I like revealed it to everybody at the party. It was just really stupid. But that is not on my list because that game was terrible outside of like just the funniness. So for me, my number 5 was Arizona and the Steelers in 2009. Kurt Warner's kind of return to glory. Everybody was like, dude only had like 4 or 5 good years, goes to Arizona, does really well, and then the next year takes them to the Super Bowl. Now, they didn't win, but that game was awesome. Harrison had the 99-yard interception, which was like, oh, it was really exciting. And the other thing about that game is I watched that when I was at FC on like this tiny little TV.
At Chili's.
I think
the first half was at a Chili's.
Yeah, we watched the first half, and then we watched the second half in our room on that tiny TV. So that was kind of funny. Number 2. I had the Patriots Seahawks with the interception. I mean, just incredible final play, but it was a good game. Like they were throwing haymakers the whole time. So I think as a complete game, that's my favorite of like the Patriots, games. My number 3 was the Titans Rams. I really remember that game a lot because like I had moved to Indiana and I had decided the year before I wanted to be a Tennessee fan. Then they went to the Super Bowl and I was like, okay, cool. And I remember watching that. Huh?
Good timing to.
Well, I mean, like my cousins were super into them as well because they're from Bowling Green, Kentucky. So
right before last season, I decided to be a Chiefs fan.
Yeah. That would have been a good time to start. But they went to the Super Bowl and lost on the 1-yard line. And I watched that game up in my room, and it was just heartbreaking. For you want your team to win, and I was 10 and cried. My number 2. Actually, crazy enough, I don't think this game was actually good, but when I watched the Ravens and Giants, the Ravens had like 5 interceptions or whatever. That game was actually really terrible, but I just remember like having a lot of fun over at some people's house. It was like, I don't know, it was just fun to watch like this defense just absolutely dominate. Kind of on the opposite end. I don't know. That was like the game that made me go, wow, like I love football for defense as well. So
remember there was 3 touchdowns on 3 consecutive plays in that game.
Yeah.
Somebody scored, and then there was back-to-back kickoff returns for touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, I think it was an interception return and then a kickoff return and then like a punt return the next. I'm not sure.
No. It was literally 3 plays in a row. I can't remember how they scored the first time, but then they each had a kick return. Like they had a kick return, and then the other team kicked off, and the other team scored. I'm pretty sure.
I thought the first one was an interception return, and then it was like kick.
It may have been.
So yeah. I don't know. That game was, a lot of people consider it to be terrible, but that was like the game that made me go, wow, like defense. I don't know. So, and then number 1 is Falcons Patriots. Like, say what you want about the first 3 quarters, but that comeback it doesn't matter how it starts; it matters how it finishes. And that comeback was just, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. Because JBM, you're right. You were like, "Oh, hey, he gets it will," and I thought that was you just being like a Tom Brady lover, and it was just like touchdown, and then Julio Jones makes the catch. It's like, okay, yeah, they're not going to win. Fumble, like sack. It was just insane. So that's my
I'm really sorry. I just saw Piano Man's shirt. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's funny y'all acted like it's something great that the Patriots did, but you don't realize that actually, like the Falcons actually always do that. So it's not really something impressive.
Atlanta just always does that
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
general.
it's like nothing that the other team did. It was just Atlanta trying to give the other team the game.
See,
Kyle
most
Shanahan.
teams play a game of 4 quarters, but Atlanta plays a 1-quarter game, and it's more exciting that way. Just save it till the end.
They just always lose.
Well, Piano Man, what's your top 5?
All right, top 5. You can't always get a top 5 that you actually know about. So I'm not really into Super Bowls that much. So let's see. I was gonna do it based on commercials I remember, but then I went ahead and just did it based on the game. So I did last year since I kind of remember. Actually, I didn't remember until someone told me last time that Mahomes won, and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll pick that one," because Mahomes is the best quarterback I've ever seen. So I was happy that he won. Now that I remember he won, I got Super Bowl 31 where Brett Favre won because I liked Brett Favre as a kid. So yeah, I was happy about that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember it being a kid and was all excited for Brett Favre.
I remember being in my cousin's basement, but I could not tell you one thing about that game.
Dude,
But
I
you
was like
remember Brett Favre
5
won?
years old, maybe 6. I mean, I know who Brett Favre
liked
is.
Brett
Yeah.
Favre.
All right.
But when you were a kid, you probably knew Brett Favre.
Yeah. That's before the first Super Bowl I ever remember was the other Falcons Super Bowl against Denver. That's the first one I remember.
We were like 11, probably.
Nah,
9. 8 or 9.
8 or 9, yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
All right, then I got the Giants beating the Patriots because I just remember that one catch. Then I got Kurt Warner. He was my next favorite quarterback after Brett Favre. So when he won versus the Titans, I remember that. And then I got Peyton Manning versus the Bears as my number 1 because I liked Peyton Manning.
Oof.
And that was great to see Peyton Manning win the Super Bowl. So that's my top 5.
It was great to see my team in the Super Bowl, but it was really bad to see Peyton win. So
Dude.
I couldn't pick it.
No love for when T.O. with a busted knee putting the team on his back and coming up one drive short.
Yeah, no, he had a broken leg.
I
It
thought
was
it
like
was
Greg
like
Jennings.
dude.
I
You know,
broke my leg.
Nobody
He
picks
played
the onside
amazing in
kick.
that game too.
Hmm.
One where the Saints had the onside kick after Hurricane Katrina. No one
Yeah,
picked
dude.
that either.
Dude,
That was a
game
good one,
was
too.
great.
Word.
We've been spoiled.
I'm never gonna pick the Saints. So.
We have been super spoiled with Super Bowls, like our generation, because like most people don't really realize this, but like the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was a ton of just absolute blowouts, just throttlings,
Yeah,
and we've only had like a handful of those.
yeah, like the Ravens, the one I talked about,
Mhm.
Tampa,
the Buccaneers,
the Tampa blowout against
Yep.
the Raiders, and then
the Seahawks.
yeah, and then the other garbage game was that like 10-3 Patriots Rams like 2 years ago. That game was terrible.
That was a good. Wait, how did this happen? You just talked about how that one game made you fall in love with games that were about defense, and then you were like, "This game that was all defense is the worst game."
Well,
What
it
the
was
heck?
more of like I don't know. Well, now I'm older and I've seen
Bad offense,
great
they
defense
just-
games.
No,
I'm just saying that was the game that made me go, "Oh, I don't need to see a team like blow someone out entirely because of offense." And it made me kind of like love football, you know? And like
Right.
20 years later, I don't need to see a 10-3 game. Like
13-3.
is it well, whatever. I don't know. It was stupid.
It was Brady's first win by double digits. Only win by double digits.
It is crazy.
Well, we'll see what Brady does.
Only win by more than a score,
What
actually.
do you mean we'll see? Brady's
Also,
going to win. Easy.
Let's think about that. Is this the first Super Bowl ever that there's like not a favorite? I mean, I know like on the betting odds there is, but like, are we really gonna call Tom Brady an underdog? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we are. I don't know.
I mean, I think Tampa.
Mahomes is probably the greatest quarterback ever. So yeah.
I guess so then. But it is weird. Like there's like a team that is definitely an underdog, or there's like I don't know. It just feels like either team is the favorite. depending
Tampa's
on who you-
defense
It's time
is
to
playing
talk
a
about
lot
the
better,
elephant
too.
in the room, boys. I'm done with this top five. We're done with this top five. We got to talk about the stonks.
Stocks. All right,
Stonks.
let's talk about them.
So, we were going to talk about a whole host of other things, but to me, it seems obvious that the most important thing to talk about is the madness of the stock market. So we tried to record on Tuesday and we couldn't because of technical difficulties on my end. Sorry, guys.
It was
But
probably because of the
was-
stonks.
It was because of the stonks, and because we are meant to talk about the stonks, the craziness that happened yesterday and today. So I have a loose understanding of the technicalities of this at best. So boys, feel free to correct me at any time. But some nerds broke our financial system. That's what I'm getting to understand. Is that more or less correct?
They're trying to.
They're
I don't know if they-
attempting.
Yeah, they're attempting.
Yeah. Basically, Redditors are doing their version of storming the Capitol with the Viking hat on, only it's way smarter and it's more awesome.
And there's no political like affiliation. There's no line in the sand. For like
Yes,
the first
it's
time in
awesome.
5 years,
Yeah.
libertarians and socialists are on the same team.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's a weird unity thing where it's like we've never been more divided, and then it turns out if like the enemies are the right people, we're not divided at all. Actually,
Eat the rich.
Well,
Yeah.
they do have different reasons. You know, like libertarians
yeah,
love it because this is like free market economy winning. You know, like don't make a bunch of stupid rules from the Fed or we will find a way to break you. And socialists, although the like rhetoric sounds the same, theirs is we need more government to change this. So it's like the topic we talked about a little while ago. It can be the exact same words with two different meanings. So AOC hating this or loving this and us loving it are two completely different things. So we just
Yeah,
lost our
one side wants to bust the hedge funds up, and one side could give a crap that there are hedge funds. They just want to be able to do the same thing, basically.
Yep.
But today, what happened was that the stocks were like, especially GameStop, was pretty much banned across platforms from being able to buy it, but you could still sell it. So I don't know how one's conclusion from this should be, more power to the like government to be able to regulate these. Because wouldn't you want a free market? Everyone was mad about it because we want to buy up the stock, but there were regulations happening that wouldn't allow the free market to work. So I mean, if you're going to get mad about it, but then want more regulation, I'm not sure how you could get that stance there. But
I mean,
don't know.
I do think that there's value in like not having insider trading and like not having a pump and dump system because like this could just happen to anything. Bunch of rich people together.
But that's
say,
what you don't understand. We do have a pump and dump system. We just weren't in on it until right now.
no, I know, but there were laws in place for like
For poor people to not get rich.
exactly. Right. I know, but I'm saying like I do think that there's some value in like not inflating the price of something, like not saying, hey, this thing is worth more than it is, like just for certain people to get rich. You know what I mean? But I
Well,
also think
so-
it's like the free speech thing, right? You can't do this. You can't say, okay, the hedge funds can continue to trade it, but you can't. And that's where I draw the line.
Yeah. I was going to make a comment about the efficient market hypothesis, but it's pointless because it doesn't really relate that much to this discussion. So we can move on unless you guys are interested.
I am interested. Let's go.
I want people to go to jail.
Yeah. Come on, Piano Man,
there's several
educate me.
directions.
Or
I'm
I want a
stupid.
guillotine. Or I want the guillotines.
let's
Roll-
let Piano
roll 'em
educate
out.
us a little bit, and then we'll talk about guillotine scenarios. Go ahead, Piano Man.
All right. Well, for Midnight Mark and I guess Preacher Paul, I don't know. Does JBM want to hear about the efficient market? I don't know, but we're going. All it means is that like news or the market automatically factors in information. So you talk about insider trading. Like there is a theory that the market already factors that in. Like anyway. So if people know about it, even if a certain number of people know about it and they traded it, it evens out into the actual value of what the stock is at the current time.
Right.
Anyway, so I'm actually not against that stuff. I actually think regulation creates a less efficient market. But
Yeah, makes sense. So I guess
Regulation
we can-
creates less efficient everything.
Yeah. So we can cooperate with the socialists to guillotine the hedge fund managers, but then at that point we got to split up because the boogaloo's on.
Well,
So
okay.
our podcast.
I'll stop
is now
there.
banned.
But here would be, and tell me if this is a dumb example, because again, I'm a moron. I admit it.
It's France. It's the early 1800s.
Well, when it comes, and I get what you're saying, like more regulation is bad. Trust me, I believe that. But like on the insider stuff, okay, so like if you had a car or something that you knew there was something messed up about it, but you kind of like messed with it and then sold it to somebody and was like, this isn't broken, but it is, you know, depending on who you sold it to or how you sell it, you can get in trouble for that, right? Like if you were a dealer is like they knew something, they kind of fixed it, then you bought it, whatever, right? I feel the same way like a stock, right? If somebody knows, oh, our stock is about to plummet and they sell it to get rich and then it plummets even more or makes it worse for you, I kind of can see like why it's a good thing for people to not be able to do that. Does that make sense?
yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense.
Kelly Loeffler in the house.
Is okay.
Wait, what did
So
she
maybe
do?
I'm just naive.
She
about
got
this.
in trouble. She didn't dump. She bought up all these like particular stocks, and like right during COVID, and then she had made a bunch. I'm sorry, she did dump. She dumped them right before they put the COVID restrictions out, and then everybody got screwed.
Yeah, but then the market went crazy spike after that. But whatever.
Yeah.
So, but the counter argument to his thing is, so if there's a dealership that's consistently like just giving people janky cars, then that dealership's going to go out of business because people are going to be like, this dealership doesn't give you what they say they do.
Yep.
So you see, that's the
Right.
counter argument of it, right? Does that make sense too?
No, yeah.
Yeah, like short term, it's like not good, but long term, it is good because it inspires
Right.
other people to do things right.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It creates a system in which the those that are rewarded are the ones that actually give you the product that they say they will.
Like in short, given no regulations, things tend to regulate themselves because people want to do business with trusted sources, trusted individuals.
Right. I guess this gets at I was talking about
In theory.
earlier-
I mean, you could say that there's
I-
nothing regulating Google right now. And we have been talking for weeks about how Google is trash. And there's like, it's too hard to combat it because they're a monopoly.
It's not too hard to combat it. We're just in the foothills of it.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet.
Like, it just takes time to create systems that are better or equal to something that's like controlling, has so much control.
Everybody trusted Google because for such a long time they were a trusted, like they weren't doing anything bad. Like
Right.
we were all just like, okay, they're great, like they're doing all the things. Yeah.
All right,
that
Preacher
we-
Paul, do you
that
want
we
to talk more about the stocks or does this work?
No, I think we pretty much, but yeah, I mean, it just kind of it gets to some interesting things though with like libertarianism and stuff because, I mean, I don't know. I was talking earlier in the group text about how actually capitalism was a term that commies coined, and then the right took it from them. But it's like actually in its original context, capitalism was describing the way the commies used it was to describe state colluding with big business, right? Which libertarians are fundamentally opposed to because the big businesses get advantages through their cooperation with the government that the small business doesn't have. I mean, there's debate about libertarians, but I mean, at least the way I see it, we should be anti-corporate, if not anti-capitalist in its original sense. People use capitalism now to mean free market, but that's not actually what it originally meant.
So they use liberal to mean like Democrat. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like how like people who follow Jesus like took Christian from the Romans who were like making fun of them.
That this happens all
I'm
the
not
time.
aware of that.
I'm not aware of that either, but I'm just rolling with it. Okay,
Our
so
historian over here.
They were first called Christians at Antioch. Where they were being made fun of.
Do we want to talk about what could happen here, or are y'all aware of like?
No, I'm just kidding.
As far as with stocks.
Yes.
Yeah, where does
I
this
don't
go?
know. Tell me.
no, tell us what could happen.
I don't know. I'm.
Well,
You're
I
the
think that's
same.
why we're having the conversation. We don't know.
Right.
Our resident
Well,
Bitcoin.
I'm
here's the
ready.
cool- here's what could happen, and this is what makes it so cool is that Melvin Capital, the hedge fund, shorted 150% of the stock. So they shorted more than the stocks that are available, and that's why Wall Street Bets on Reddit decided to pick this company to just force them to have to liquidate and buy shares at whatever price is available. So come tomorrow, you're going to see both week and monthly short contracts begin to expire. Mm-hmm. So if they have too much open interest, then they could be margin called or forced to liquidate. So over the next week, there aren't enough shares available during trading hours to actually buy enough shares for them. So they could just be forced to just push the stock's price higher and higher and higher until they can get enough shares to actually buy. So this thing, we got to pump this stock as much as possible tomorrow. I don't want to be a shill here, but I think it could be really fun to just take them out. You know, it's fun.
Well, so here's the counter argument.
So you're
to
all
that,
in
though.
on GameStop right now.
I have one share, so yeah, I'm all in.
So here's the counter argument to that, though, is that what happened today in driving things down so hard allowed them to reposition themselves and buy up enough stock that because like there was a ton of activity today, but like retail investors like couldn't do it. So it was probably the hedge funds.
Yeah, that's garbage.
Yeah.
Potentially,
I mean-
yeah, but the volume actually was super low. But yeah, I do understand your point. They definitely could have repositioned themselves.
The highest villain of this story is definitely the hedge funds, but then very close second to that are the trading platforms, which freaking throttled everybody today, trying to buy into these stocks, and it's crap. Like you cannot just change the rules of the game midstream like that. That's crazy.
Well, so here's what happened though. They had their feet to the fire. So Milton, right? They're the ones that shorted all this to begin with. Well, then they got bailed out by Citadel.
Yeah.
Well, Citadel processes 60% of all trades for Robinhood. They do like 30% of Ameritrade. Citadel processes like a ton of, if not the majority of the trades on these platforms.
Yeah.
And so allegedly Citadel CEO picked up the phone and said, "Hey, you got to shut this down now." And that's where, if anybody can prove that, that's where that would become a massive thing, I think. Yeah. But it's just super shady.
I'm gonna try to get this podcast out by tomorrow so we can pump the stock, baby.
Pump the stock.
Pump it.
Okay, so let's see what else. What else?
Buy the dip. Buy the dip.
Buy Dogecoin, however you say it.
But next week will be really interesting. So hopefully next week we can talk about it more. But we'll see what happens.
So we're gonna go from there to actually something I wanted to talk about. Even I think it's still relevant today. Is Great Pivot of 2021, or as I like to call it, subtitled well, we can't lock down forever. So we had earlier this week, we had Gavin Newsom lift the stay-at-home orders out here in California. The other day, I think it was yesterday, Cuomo lifted the stay-at-home orders in New York. And it doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. And it's not just that. I mean, because I'm all for
It totally
opening up,
makes sense.
It's because
it
we
makes-
know we
it
can
makes-
refute it through
It makes
masks.
sense.
It makes sense because none of it makes sense. Nothing about
Right.
COVID has
Yeah.
made sense for like 8 or 9
No, like-
months.
It makes sense. They're guys in the White House, and so they.
Yes,
again.
I know it makes sense, but I know it makes sense by their logic. But I guess
According to COVID logic, it makes no sense.
according to COVID logic,
Oh, yeah.
But I guess I'm just saying it's just been astonishing to me. I expected it, but I didn't know how quick and with with what force the media and the politicians would all immediately begin to be like, well, obviously lockdowns are bad, and so we have to get back to normal life. And you're like, huh, you sound like Republicans from last year. It's really weird. Like,
Last year, like, how about last month? Last week?
Last week.
yeah. So
Yesterday?
I just continue to be amazed, and I don't. The media malfeasance on this one is insane. That's all I'm
How
gonna say.
how are you
That's my
surprised?
que-
Honestly,
Well-
we've been saying this for months. Like this is exactly what's going to happen, and it did.
Like
It's the most predictable thing
like I
of
said,
all time.
I'm not surprised that it happened. It just is shocking to see. You know,
The manner in
Like-
which it happened surprises me. I thought they were going to manipulate the testing cycles, which they did. I thought they were going to wait so that the numbers actually like went down or whatever, so they could be like, look, okay, now things are better. I didn't know they were just going to be like, you know what, screw it. We have the most cases we've ever had. Let's just open up anyway. That part surprises me.
Or you thought they would have like some more candor about them?
Well, I thought they would wait. Like all they had to do was wait like 2 or 3 weeks because they've changed the cycle threshold of how they like test people now. So like way less people are going to test positive. Like you're going to see this over like the next probably 4 to 6 weeks. Anyway, but like I thought they were going to wait until then so they could be like, oh, like look, Joe Biden fixed things. So like now we can open. But instead they're just like, you know what? The next election is not for like 4 years, so let's just open right now. It's kind of incredible.
Well, they're doing the same thing they did in 2016. Joe Biden has won against the only person they think that can win a Republican seat again, right? And they're like, oh, well, we'll never lose again. That's why they don't. It's not necessarily just about Biden. Democrats just genuinely believe that they will never, ever lose again because they keep winning the popular vote.
I mean, in theory, they control everything, right? They control all forms of media. They're now in full control of the government. They control all of the things that we consume. They shouldn't lose. They should never lose elections. The only reason they do lose elections is because their ideas are so bad. Like they're just so awful.
But specifically with the media, I guess I keep thinking that the media is going to have this internal realization that they are dying and that they're going to do something to try to alter that course. But they never seem to correct in any way. Like, and it's been an obvious trend for years. Like the media's been dying since we've known each other. I mean, and before that even. So yeah.
It seems to me like a lot of my friends who agree with Democrat stuff, like on social media, they're also part of the problem because literally they do two things. One, they ignore it and they don't care. They act like it's just like a coincidence. Like, oh yeah, they said they need to open because they looked at the data, But then they also come back at people that say the same thing. We are like, oh, that's kind of convenient, right? That Cuomo 1 week after it had nothing to do with that. Like, how is it that we've gotten to the point where people just believe everything that whatever they're
Wait, isn't
what
this
you
a
sound like
topic?
Midnight Mark?
what?
Well, it was a Midnight Mark topic, but we can touch on it.
I
here.
mean, it's a quick thing. It was this question I asked for last week that I told him to scrap. But I really want to know why you guys think that. Why do you think people just dismiss everything that has to do with whatever political party they vote for?
Answer rhymes with Schmorprit Schmedia.
No,
I was going to say
not
it's
necessarily.
they use statistics, right, as their goal, because the places with the worst, like the worst cases still are the places that were locked down. And you look at places that were open, like here in Georgia, we don't have the cases at the same rate. So you're like, you want to look at the statistics, maybe you should open up. But I'm not sure that would help their statistics. But I'm just saying, obviously, what they were doing wasn't working. All right. What was your point?
Well, I was going to say, I think that to answer your question, Midnight Mark, like the reason that people just assume they're right is it's a combination of things. Like, yes, like the corporate media kind of like pushed it along initially, and I think like I don't even want to say a long time ago, but like historically, I guess that's why people like thought that. But now the way social media is, literally your whole social media, if you want it to be, and most people do, it's set up as a massive echo chamber. Whether you're on Facebook or Twitter or Reddit or whatever, you literally can follow, because that's where people are getting their news now, right? At least that aren't boomers. And so they're following only the things that are reaffirming their beliefs. And so they just assume, as soon as they hear a counter argument, they're like, no, that's a lie, because they saw like 80 people tweet about it, right? Like that have a blue check mark next to their name. And so everyone just follows all these accounts and all these different people, and people are commenting on their stuff and retweeting their stuff that just believe what they believe already. And so finding truth is so hard. And I'm not saying this is not just a lefty problem. This is absolutely happening on the other side too, and anywhere in between. Like libertarians tend to just mostly follow libertarians, and socialists follow socialists, and racists follow racist. Like everybody is just in this echo chamber where what they think is right to at least a pretty large majority of people within that sphere. And so then they're just like, yeah, I'm right and you're wrong immediately.
Yeah.
That's my
I
opinion.
think that it's good. This is actually for sure a totally unrelated question, but do you think it's good for people to silo themselves in that way? Like, do you think some people are happier, or do you think it's like you could make an argument, I guess, that like, well, it's my social media. I only want to see what I want to see. I don't come on here, people. I just want to look at pictures of puppies or whatever. I don't want to hear your stance on abortion. But I mean, I know there are probably some boomers that view social media that way.
I was actually surprised to see JBM shake his head no, when I thought your whole idea was like people should just go to where like they're like the other people. I thought that was your whole stance.
No. I'm saying that's what people do. I'm not saying what they should do. That's what people do. But to his question of whether or not are people happier, no way. I mean, that's clear from like data, right? Like people are so depressed now. Suicides are way up. Overdoses are way up. Like people are just like so depressed. And I mean, there's other reasons for that too. But I don't.
Chamber?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's helping.
Yeah, I don't think
guess.
that's really because of the echo chamber.
But the echo chamber is not making them happy enough to not kill themselves, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not fixing the problem.
Right, it's not helping anything. I guess I'm just thinking like,
If you're having
you know,
suicidal thoughts, please get help. We love you.
Yes.
Chamber.
Yes.
Don't make it a joke.
I guess I was thinking like,
Actually
personally,
get help. What the heck? We can't even be.
Hey, this is a comedy podcast. You're allowed to make a joke.
yeah,
guess
it's
that's
fine.
true.
It's fine. We can do.
We need the listeners. Don't do it. I mean,
If you kill yourself, there'll only be 3 of you left.
Yeah.
tell 3 people about the podcast first. Oh my God.
Yeah. Pass the word along before you go, if you would.
We're canceled. It's
man.
over. It's over.
Midnight Mark went on a pee break, and we just killed our whole podcast. So
I'm sure I'll hear
I was
it.
just gonna say,
I knew it was
personally-
coming.
I think it's more informative and more enriching to follow a social media landscape where you get different points of view. But it definitely is gonna. I mean, my Twitter account and my my social media definitely slants heavily libertarian. I mean, I follow some socialists and some liberals and some boomer cons, but everybody I think is going to lean toward people that think and talk like them. But I think that you can silo yourself off way too much because a lot of people don't even think about this on this meta level. They're just like people whose posts they like and getting mad at people whose posts they don't like and unfollowing them or getting in comment fights.
Yeah, well, and like, so to that respect, right? Like, obviously on Twitter, like, I follow people on both sides, right? But there's people there's people on the left that I follow that I know for sure I'm going to disagree with almost everything they say. But I follow them because I want to see it, right? Like the AOCs of the world. Except today, I actually agreed with her one time. But then here's what I have found myself doing is the people that I like cut out of my echo chamber are people that I was following that I thought like, okay, like I agree with them. And then I get annoyed because like there's some topic going on and for like 2 weeks I can't stand their takes. And so then I'm just like, all right, I'll just unfollow them. I don't care anymore. And so it like creates this echo. It's still the echo chamber effect because I know there's people I totally disagree with. But then I start cutting out the people who are like on my side, so to speak. But like I got annoyed because they had like a counter argument to like one portion of something.
Well,
and I feel like that's kind of how it works.
Big problem with libertarian Twitter too is that a bunch of them are they're just not humorless autistics. So as libertarians tend to be. So
and obviously this is not just isolated to Twitter. Twitter just like really zeroes in on the whole problem. But like it's Facebook. It's everything.
Well, we drifted far from our original topic of the Great Pivot, but I think it was we got somewhere.
We made the Great Pivot.
The Great Pivot.
The greatest pivot. And actually, in lieu of jokes, this evening, I'm gonna in real time check the value of Dogecoin or Dogecoin. We're not sure how to say it, and so we're gonna get a live reaction, friends. By the way, I've tried to purchase more Dogecoin several times, and it's failed every time. So Robinhood is seriously having some issues. But
I got it.
I got it too.
I already checked.
7.
You got it.
0.76.
47 cents. Just kidding.
It's not.
That would be cool though.
0.72.
Exactly
0.73. 0.72. 0.73.
All right, we're not going to do the rest of the show that way. All right, move on.
Yeah. So I think what maybe our last segment here is a really good question I thought from Midnight Mark, which was, and I'll let him give some context here too, but I think this is a solid question, and I have an opinion about it. I don't know if you guys do. Should mega churches get tax-exempt status? Midnight Mark is going to give a case for taking tax-exempt status away from mega churches, I think. Go ahead, Midnight Mark.
Well, all right. I already knew when I asked this question, it's like tax bad, bad. But like a bunch of people are like churches should be taxed as businesses if they make a profit, right? And okay, whatever. I'm not talking about should there be taxes. There are taxes, okay? So keep it in the frame of mind that you pay taxes, I pay taxes. If you own a business, you pay taxes, right? And I was actually on a Reddit thread last night, and they were talking about this is why churches should be taxed or whatever. And some people were talking about it, and I thought about it, and I was like, our church, the church I go to, posts their finances in the back in like the foyer, right? And it explains everything, and it's basically like saying, hey, if you want to audit me, do it, because here it is. And I actually made that comment on Reddit, and people were like, oh, well, my church did the same thing, but they were lying or whatever. And fine, there are people who are bad people, but let's look at like Joel Osteen, right? This dude has like Bentleys and he wears like Armani suits, and he's a multimillionaire, and he does it off the profit of his church. He's funding himself, and he doesn't have to pay taxes. Like, he just gets to use religion. He does not have. He
doesn't, or the church doesn't.
The church doesn't, and because he's a preacher, because like he gets like a lot of that stuff that he pays for. So they did this a couple years ago. They interviewed that televangelist, right? And they were like, "You didn't pay taxes on this like huge limo that you have that you don't need," because they paid it out of the contribution. He was wearing a suit, and they were like, "We know that you bought that suit out of the contribution. So like they say they only make a certain amount of money, right? And they're buying like their clothes and their cars and their homes out of the collection plate." And that's like
they're always spreading the word.
They're
I guess preacher Paul.
so my thing is like, should there be like a way to basically tell these people like, you can't, like, I don't know. To me, it's like,
well,
maybe mega churches should be taxed.
I have two questions.
I'm just wondering.
First of all, one quick one for Preacher Paul. Do you pay taxes on your income as a preacher?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, second question. Define mega church. Midnight Mark. Go.
I think it is defined already as a church with more than 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think that's an actual definition.
A church.
Oh, it is?
A church
Okay.
with more
I
than,
looked this up correct.
yeah, a church with more than 2,000 people. Sure.
Okay.
Or somebody who like
It's 2,000.
who gets a huge revenue stream from like television sales. Like a lot of these guys, they don't have to pay taxes on the money that comes in from like their telesales either. And
A
it's
lot of
like,
those have memberships of like over 2,000 because they're on television, and there's people that become members, and that would count.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And those, I mean, they're businesses, and like they have people on seven. I mean, obviously, like your income, they get taxed on their income. They're still income tax, right? But I'm talking about like all the other garbage that they buy. It's not for their church. It's for them, and they just get it tax free because of the religious tax thing.
Oh, like it's a write-off?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, but like, I mean, we can do that.
No.
Like, you can be like, oh, I bought this suit to go to work in.
The church, they say that the church bought the suit, right? And it's like a write-off for the church, not for them. You know what I mean? It's not the same as when we write off mileage.
Well, how does the church write it off if they don't pay taxes? I don't understand.
They don't have to.
Okay,
Because they don't have to. Go ahead.
I'm misunderstanding.
So Joel Osteen definitely, unless he is, trying to join the McAfee Club of Spanish prison, he definitely pays income taxes. Okay, but now his whatever number his income is, I guarantee.
Don't slander
he
McAfee. Take it back.
I don't think I did any such thing. He's proud of being in Spanish prison. Whatever number Joel Osteen's income is, I guarantee he's bringing in way, way more than that. Because what Midnight Mark is right in that a church, and hopefully, I've never seen this in my situation, and hope never to, because it's probably a sign of a pretty corrupt church. But a church can technically write off can purchase items for its staff and its ministers, and if they are in the, I believe it's that if they are in the purview of their job, they can be written off the church's taxes. So like, your church buys Joel Osteen's church buys him a bunch of suits. Let's say hypothetically.
Wait, I thought churches are tax exempt. This is where I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
So how are they writing it off?
They're not.
You can write it off.
They're just not
You
getting
can write
taxed
it
at
off.
all.
Yes.
You can write it off on your taxes as a work-related expense that your church, which you work for, which is tax exempt, paid for
Right,
it
but
for you.
he's saying we can do that anyway. Like if I buy a suit for work and say it's for work, I can write it off.
Right, but that's your money. You
But you
spent
did- but
your
you
money
bought
on
that
the
suit.
suit. The point
Right.
is they're using the contribution money, not their income money, on the suit.
And then writing it off
And
on
so,
their own taxes.
so
So they get
Yeah, that's what I'm
double-
missing.
double
Maybe our terminology is not good because that's where I'm getting confused.
It's like they're double dipping.
Yes.
They're like getting a. Wait, what? No, that can't be what happens.
So the church buys a suit and gives it to the preacher,
That's
and then
right.
he puts it on his taxes.
Yeah, because like he
but why?
basically says that's part of his
gift.
income.
It's all right. Let's get back
Okay.
to like the actual
Okay.
question here and assume that a mega church is getting all these benefits of things.
Okay.
And
Okay.
answer that question because I'm not sure that we know the tax details.
yeah, and by the way, not to defame every megachurch out there, I'm sure that this is not the case in every giant church, but there are enough
Oh,
situations
it
like
is.
this where this is a thing that does get called out quite a bit.
How many churches with over 2,000 members are there that don't do this stuff? Come on.
I don't know. I just don't want to make a blanket statement. That's all. Why are you?
How many churches are there with 2,000 members?
Very few is my point.
Yeah, but especially like the prosperity gospel types, like Joel Osteen, it's all a big grift. That is for sure. But I was going to come in very harshly against this idea of lifting tax exemptions for churches. I don't know about you guys, because I think my only reasoning for it, although I do think that I told
You're a
Midnight Mark,
preacher.
I do think Joel Osteen's Bentleys are gross. But I think that once they lift tax exempt status, or once they take away tax exempt status for one church, it's going away for everybody. It's only a matter of time. Because if they can go after Joel Osteen for stealing this money from his congregation and buying a bunch of stuff with it, then they can go after a year for having opinions that they don't like, or they can go. They can go after individuals for preaching things that they don't like. So
That was that was going to be my question: is why does it have to be just the mega churches?
yeah,
like-
I don't think it would. I don't think it would stay at just the mega churches if that happened. That might be how they would start it, but
So are you guys all on the side of like you're for churches being tax exempt?
I mean, I think if you're gonna exempt them, they should all be exempt, and if you're not, then they should all not be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just don't really get why they're not, but
I mean, Joel Osteen, maybe he's
Well-
just really good at his job, grifter or not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he's
Not
really
maybe,
good at
he
stealing
clearly
from the
is very
contribution
good.
plate.
No, he's
I mean-
a very good grifter preacher. Yeah.
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 no, but I mean for taxes for a church to be taxed, I'm not really sure like I'm against taxing churches, honestly.
But you're against taxes, right?
Well, okay. If you're going to eliminate taxes for churches,
yeah, we said
eliminate taxes
within the
for me.
framework
Oh,
of
hold
the
on.
taxes.
Hold on. If you're going to eliminate taxes for churches, eliminate them for me. And if I had to pay taxes, churches got to pay taxes. That's what I'm at.
Yeah.
Would you consider all churches businesses?
See, that's where it comes in weird because they do receive their money from like contributions or donations, right? That's where it gets like that's where it's the awkward middle ground. Like it's not really income. Like they're not getting
But-
paid for a service. Although you could,
So-
I guess, argue.
So some of the
service.
people's arguments are that like there should
I don't know. I think a lot.
so
of the same
but some of the
economic
people's
factors work
arguments
on
are
churches.
there should be like a way to audit, not necessarily tax, but like audit and look at it and say churches do not need Armani suits. You can't, like, you have to pay taxes on that no matter what. Churches do not need a jet or a limo
A building.
for, you know what I mean? No, a building wouldn't, because a building houses all the people, right? A suit for
Okay.
your preacher is,
It houses your whole body.
and not just a
houses
suit,
him.
not like
It keeps him from being naked.
not a $200, like a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 suit. You know what I
You can
mean?
get a
Like
multi-million
Right.
building and it's cool.
it is taking advantage of their of
Like Joel
their funds.
Osteen, he's his church is in the old Rocket Stadium. So like, I mean, he has a gigantic, multi-million-dollar building.
Yeah.
Is that cool? Like,
If
Here's the
people
other
go,
thing.
yeah, but people go. Like that's the thing. The building is for the people. I'm talking about like
yeah, I just
You-
don't like the logic. Like, you're gonna cut out certain things just because you think it's too expensive, but like, it's just your own opinion.
right.
Okay, but
Yeah, I mean, at
okay,
the end of the day, like the preacher should just go to like Goodwill to get his suit.
Probably.
Like, it's a regulation. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like what's the line?
Does your
Like-
church pay your preacher for your preacher's clothes?
I mean, they pay him and he buys
Well,
them. So
okay, but not extra. That's my
no,
point.
that's not what we're talking about.
That's the point. The point is your preacher gets a salary, and then he doesn't go into the collection plate and say, "I needed an additional $5,000 for this suit that I like." He pays for his suits with the money that you pay him already.
Right, but I guess that's what I'm saying. If they said, "Hey, churches can't do this anymore," that's literally what would happen. Joel Osteen would be like, "Hey, I need $100,000 raise so I can pay for my suits, and then I'll just write them off."
yeah, that is. I agree with JBM there.
But
Okay, but
yeah,
go ahead.
but it would still
Well,
it would still even some things out because he would have to like still purchase
them
those
off.
himself.
You'd have to write it off. I mean, like, I understand what you're saying, but like, I guess what I'm coming back to is if the church, if any church is going to be exempt, then I guess
when
they should
you-
all be exempt.
But that's not the case because when you write something off, you just write off the tax. You don't write off the principal. When you dip into the collection plate for a $4,000 suit, that's $4,000 free, not just writing off the tax and paying the principal. So no, it isn't the same. Because if you give yourself a raise and then you pay for your suit, you write off $400, not $4,000. But if you dip into the collection plate for an additional $4,000, you're getting a $4,000 write-off that you shouldn't get. You should only get to write off the tax. That's the point.
Right, but so where do we draw the line, though? Right? I mean, because
I think they
here's
should
what
be allowed to do it. I think they should be allowed to do it, but I just don't agree with. I would never give my money to a church with a preacher that does something like that.
Yeah,
Put it that
I
way.
mean, that's
the other side
ultimately
of
the thing.
the other side of this that I feel like has been left out of this is that, I mean, we're talking about the government coming in and saying to Joel Osteen's church, "You can't have the Armani suits, you can't have the plane because you don't need it." But that's the government's opinion, right? Like Joel Osteen, I preach at a prosperity gospel church. He literally preaches that if you have a good relationship with God, you're going to be rich for sure. Like, that's basically what
he's living proof.
so if the guy up front isn't in an Armani suit, the whole thing doesn't work. So I mean, I don't know. It seems like it is part of a kind of a necessary part of that particular grift is got to have the suits. So I mean, I don't know. If you changed it, he would have to buy them out of his own money, but it wouldn't. I don't think it would put an end to those types of preachers.
So he's
or
a
to corrupt
Scientologist.
churches. Yeah.
I mean, should Scientology be taxed? The Church of Scientology.
Not
Scientology is
not
a
based
real
on what we've
niche
been
business.
talking about.
But yeah, no, I would say no because I mean they've been deemed
I-
to be a
yeah.
real religion. So
I guess ultimately that's my question for Midnight Mark, since he asked a question. Like, do you see a distinction between a mega church and like the regular little church down the road that like 50 people go to? As far as this scenario, with taxing.
because I think mega churches probably make money in other ways than just contribution too.
Right, but like the Catholic Church in my town, there's probably 300 or 400 members there. They have a carnival. They make money that way.
Yeah.
yeah,
So like I guess that's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean,
I just don't know how you would draw the line.
now, I don't
here.
know. I don't know. I was just wondering about the whole tax situation because like it does seem ridiculous that they can
But
do that. It just seems ridiculous.
the weird thing, the thing though about is the difference between mega churches and small churches as far as the tax exempt status goes is taking taking the tax exempt status away from the mega churches really doesn't hurt them that much. I feel like they,
Yeah.
like we've already said,
Actually,
they could find
no,
a way
no.
to achieve the same ends.
That was my thought yesterday. Sorry. I do have like a point. My point is like, you know how there are like for-profit universities, right? Would there be a way to prove that your church is nonprofit? Like the church, JBM, you go to the biggest church I think of anybody here, right? Membership wise and probably contribution wise. But your church can probably prove that they're not for profit, right? They have holdover money, but a lot of that money goes to other preachers and stuff. Like they have those funds open all the time for their people they support. But I think there could be a way to prove that some of these mega churches are for profit. And if you're for profit, if you're distinguished as for profit, then maybe you can be taxed. Similar to the way university. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm off. I don't know.
I guess it does make sense. I just don't know what the legal. I'm actually very curious now what the legal definition of like how you are for profit or not.
Yeah, so because your
Yeah.
revenue is from donations.
Yeah, like I just don't know what what the legal definition would be, because if the definition is that you have leftover funds, then then my church has leftover funds.
Yeah, but okay,
We don't spend it
but
all.
that's not that isn't it. Piano Man's right.
That is
Like
what
for
for-profit
profit is you make money in other ways, and I think mega churches make money in other ways than just their contributions. Your church only makes money in its contributions, 100%.
Yeah, but even not-for-profit organizations make money in ways that aren't just contributions. So, like, that's not it either.
Yeah.
Like,
I understand your point, Midnight Mark, but
Only
like
through, like,
as far as like
fundraising.
legality goes,
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, what do you guys think
Yeah,
about
you can
that?
call
Like,
it
if
part
you
of
can
the-
determine Joel Osteen is a for-profit church next to Preacher Paul, you're a
But I guess
non-profit.
what I was saying is that, yeah,
Does that make more sense? Maybe I should have like thought about that earlier.
I understand what
Yeah,
you're saying. I
but
just don't think
again-
you can determine that, because you
Yeah,
could say,
that-
"Hey,
that
it's a
does-
fundraiser for us to be on TV." Right? This supports our work here. Like,
For my
it's just hard to, it's just hard to pinpoint that. I understand what you're saying completely. Like,
How do you determine for-profit and non-profit
Yeah.
universities? I don't know that answer.
I don't know.
Okay.
I feel ignorant. I want
Yeah.
to know.
Maybe that.
we don't want to know. I don't care about taxes. Get rid of taxes. That's all I care about.
We should start our own trading app and then
And
tell.
buy GameStop stuff.
And Dogecoin.
All right. Thank you for indulging my ridiculous question.
No, I liked your question. It was great.
Did we lose the preacher?
Is Preacher Paul still there?
JBM, did you have a question this week? You always have one, man.
I think was that going to be our last question? I don't know.
It may have been. I don't
Let's
know.
go.
I guess we're gonna edit this.
yo,
Oh, he's
sorry.
back.
Oh, he's back.
Did
All
I
right.
disappear for a second?
Yeah,
Okay.
but we're
Yeah, we
ready
did.
to answer a new question.
Or
Word.
if
That was our-
Unless we're
that was
done.
our last question because
Oh,
we
okay.
did three long ones and the top 5.
Dope.
So,
Oh wait, we were talking about the importance of Harriet Tubman.
oh yeah, that can be a quick question at the end.
All right. Okay.
Why do we care who's on the money, JVM? Like everybody's talking about or before the stonks happened, everyone was talking about the Harriet Tubman 20. Why do we care? JVM's question.
we only put racist people on the money, I thought.
Who cares?
I
I don't know.
This is the take I thought everybody would have. Actually didn't know this was going to be a pod question when I just originally asked Paul. I just don't know why people care. Like, people are like, no, that's not important to our country. I'm like,
That could
dude,
be-
I just bought a coin that has a dog on it. Like, what are we doing here? I don't understand.
I just bought a coin. And it is the title of the episode, by the way.
Doge. No, I mean, who cares? Harriet Tubman's fine.
No, I mean it's cool. Like if somebody is really passionate about it, let them have their day in the sun.
Yeah.
That's what I like to say.
I mean,
Yeah,
I will
I
say,
think Andrew
like,
Jackson's had it long enough.
yeah,
I think if we would have put Harriet Tubman on the dollar like earlier, 9/11 wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it makes a
for
big
Well,
difference.
I think that like having presidents or like I guess even founding fathers like Benjamin Franklin is like a standard. You know, Colin Cowherd always
first.
talks about having standards, right? Like, I think it. I can understand if you say we have a standard for our money, and our money is you're either someone who signed the Declaration of Independence or you're a president. I could be cool, and I could be cool with people being like,
Trump 20.
well, because you can argue, right? People would argue like Harriet Tubman is a great person in our history, but like, should she be on the money? And why do we need these petty arguments? So maybe the counter argument would be, let's have a standard for who can be on our money, and that's presidents or someone who signed the Declaration of Independence. Does that kind of
Money's going virtual. Put whoever they want on it.
Put Obama on there.
Obama coin?
Put Tiger
Buy
King
the
on there.
fake coin.
Ooh. We never talked about that. How Tiger King had a limo, a stretch Hummer limo pulled up outside his prison
He was so ready to get out of
on
prison.
the night on Donald Trump's last night in office because he thought he was going to get pardoned.
That's the funny side of that. The unfunny side of that is Edward Snowden and Ross Albright and Julian Assange also did. Trump went out of office in the worst possible way.
Hey, good news for Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. Like, they're not in prison.
Yeah.
Bad
that is
news
true.
for Ross Albright. He is.
Yeah.
And Joe
Yeah.
Exotic.
Yeah.
Sleepy
Joe
Joe
I
Exotic.
Exotic.
mentioned that guy.
Yeah. Shout out to Joe
Oh.
Exotic, you crazy sociopath.
Before we log off, over or under 10 more executive orders in the next by the next time we record? Over, under 10.
He's
Over.
running out, right?
Yeah, I think under.
I
He's
think he's running out of stuff to do.
He's literally just signing executive orders suggesting stuff.
Every day.
How many more ways can you stop racism with an executive order? I mean, he's accomplished so much in this presidency that I mean, how much more can you do?
All right,
He's
so
done it all.
Paul, you're over 10 by the next time we
Sure,
record.
yeah.
And you got
What is the current count?
42. In
Yeah, I say
8
under,
days.
He's gonna get to
I don't think we're hitting 50.
You don't think so?
I just
Dude,
don't.
half of them are literally just
Well,
suggestions.
to be fair, we're also going to record in like 4 days,
Oh,
5
cool.
days.
All right.
That's true. We're
So-
running
All right,
late
wow.
this week.
I just don't see it. I don't know. I mean, would it surprise me? No.
I'm still
I just don't see
saying
it.
over just because somebody's got to take that bet.
Honestly, you know what he might sign? He might sign an executive order to like make Columbus Day like Indigenous people.
That's what I'm talking
That could
about.
happen.
He'll just
For
do
sure.
stuff like that. All right.
Sacagawea
If
is
you're
already
under-
on a corner.
If you're under how many? In 4 days, how many executive orders? For the two that
I'm gonna say none. I don't think there'll be any more before we record again.
he signed 5
I
today.
say
Last day.
he'll get to 50 and stop.
Okay. So you're okay.
Less than 50, between this number and 50, which I
Maybe he'll do 45 in honor of
JBM,
Donald
I
Trump.
cannot believe you think he's going to sign no more. He's literally averaging what is that? Like 4.5 executive orders a day? And you think he's done? All right.
Yeah. Seems like he has.
I
a
have
staff-
faith in my president.
All right.
He's a good man.
Oh,
All right.
man.
Well, we'll see what the staff of interns comes up with in the way of executive orders overnight tonight, and see what he signs tomorrow. So that's our president. All right. Well, I am Preacher Paul. It has been real. It's been cool. It's been stonktastic. We salute you. Time for the
Doggies at 7 cents. Peace.
Let's go.
peace, doggy.